better rolling dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice.
Matt, I have some bad news for you.
You're renaming the podcast My Dinner with Rob.
That's right. That's good news. That would be a great podcast is if this were just you and I, Wallace Shawn, and who's the other guy? Just sitting and having a nice, pleasant dinner conversation. No. Matt, the unfortunate thing is that you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It's closing time.
Closing time.
It's closing time. We are ending things. We are wrapping up. The Dungeon Master has left the building, and of course, hello everyone, hello patrons. This is Dungeon Master of None, and we are talking about ending campaigns.
That's right. I know who I want to take me home, Rob, and it's you. I want you to take me home through some good advice on closing the final chapter, turning the page.
That's right.
All that good shit.
I'm going to take us all home. This is a really, really good question, actually, and thank you, patrons. This came from somebody in our Discord, BGD, who asked this question, and we've talked about this. We've referenced this a few times, but we've never talked specifically about ending campaigns. And when I heard this, I was like, oh, of course we have to talk about this. This is one of the great challenges, I think, of being a long-term DM. And my thinking on this has kind of evolved a lot in the past few years. I think that my opinion on it has changed somewhat. I have had the privilege, I guess I would describe it, of running several full campaigns from beginning to end and wrapping them. And so I have a lot of experience with this. I think
I think that's the, not to interrupt.
No, I'm just rambling. Tell me.
But you're like, that's the important thing is like, if you look at the data, what limited data we have, most people don't actually really end campaigns, or most groups don't. Not accusing our dungeon masters of this. This kind of
what I was. This is what I was going to ask you, Matt, because I don't know. Well, you have data, which is fascinating, but my impression is that the sort of platonic ideal of a campaign or of a dungeon master is one where it is ongoing in perpetuity, right? You hear about these giants of the industry who have had games that have been running for decades or something like that. And that's utterly astonishing to me to have that sort of stability in your life.
Right.
But
if you can keep your campaign going for 20 years, then you'll maybe get a write-up in Kotaku Australia or an interview with Polygon Magazine. But maybe that's not realistic for most of us.
Right. And
or even desirable.
Yeah, and I don't want to judge anybody who has long-running campaigns, and if you can do that, and if you enjoy the world and you want to iterate on it and build on it, then that's great. And again, I think what I understand is that that's how most players do things, or how they want to do things. But what I have come to feel recently is that I really like having discrete campaigns with beginnings and ends. And I even these days am trying to deliberately plan them to be shorter, concrete arcs that either I can end or that are designed to end. Because it's hard. It's been especially hard in the past few years to keep anything together for more than a few months at a time. So planning for things to end has been easier. But in general, I do feel like I am leaning toward this. And I've gotten a lot of satisfaction out of the way that some of my recent campaigns have ended. Not all of them. It's not always satisfying. It's not always good, I suppose. But I do think that if done well and everybody's sort of ready for that conclusion, that it can be very rewarding.
Well, this is the paradox of the game of Dungeons and Dragons, is that it is on the one hand telling some sort of cooperative story, and stories, we all know, must have some kind of ending, but the game encourages you to not end, right? There's always one more quest, one more loose end you could tie up, one more thing you could add, one more challenge for your players. And I mean, I think, there's sort of this assumption that, oh, yeah, your campaign will never end. Here's a fun fact, Rob. I looked at the Dungeon Master's Guide before this episode to see if it had any advice about ending campaigns, and it doesn't.
It doesn't. That doesn't surprise me at all. And this is interesting. If you follow the rules as written when it comes to experience and to progression and how often you can expect your players to level up, then I haven't done the math, but it would take you a really, really long time, even playing every week, to go from level 1 to level 20, right? And the game doesn't even technically end when you reach 20, but that's the sort of upper limit when it would make sense to talk about ending a campaign. So it is clearly designed. I think this is fair to say, right? That Dungeons and Dragons specifically is designed to be played more or less infinitely. That it is a forever game, that you could theoretically play the same PC and definitely the same party for years and years and years before you would either run out of content or levels.
Right. And we like that about it. And like we said, there are people who have gotten famous for doing this. The rules, usually in some supplement of various editions, support this, right? Whether it's the epic level handbook of like second and third edition, or just the sort of epic boons you can give players in fifth edition. But yeah, here's the thing is that like human beings and their situations and their relationships and circumstances are not as infinite as the storytelling game we play.
Yeah.
So I'm more on the other end with you.
Yeah, and this is so interesting, I think, to me, because it feels very what's the longest campaign you've ever been in, Matt? Is it one we played in together? The one that I think I ran one for our group that went for about 3 years. I think Thunder on the Steppe was 2.5, maybe 3 years
2.5
in total. That's the longest I've ever been involved, either as a player or as a DM, I think, is around 3 years with the same campaign. Same group for a long time, but
sure. I think, we should also mention, right, it doesn't have to, you don't have to say goodbye to the group, but no, I don't think I've ever broken the 2-year mark as a dungeon master, and I've only once broken it, twice I've broken it as a player, once with you, once with another dungeon master.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, sorry. To be clear, we are talking about ending campaigns. Ending groups or breaking friendships is something else entirely, and we've talked about that. But this is specifically about ending a complete like campaign experience. And I think I played in a campaign that somebody else ran for about 2 years, and I ran one for 2.5, about 3, and that was a feat. I can't imagine going longer than that in any context. And let's see.
The thing is, I think you're right in talking about playing rules as written, but even if let's say we all probably level up our players slightly faster than rules as written, especially maybe in later levels.
I'm way more generous with XP, but theoretically, if you followed the rules, it would take a lot longer than we usually do it. I don't know anyone who does that, but
yeah, even if you're not every week, it does kind of get to that natural 2-year period. I don't know personally, like, okay, there are ways of ending a campaign that are not endings. And I think, as we mentioned before, those are the most common, right? Schedules fall apart and the campaign completely just, maybe even the group falls apart. Or I have found it's more likely that someone gets burned out on DMing, someone else has a cool idea, or I am super guilty of this. I myself have a new idea as a dungeon master. Everyone gets excited about making new characters in a new setting or a new system. And then that hype overtakes whatever you had going. It's a little bit of a grass is always greener in the next hex over.
No, that's exactly right. The vast majority of campaigns, in my experience, either fizzle, fall apart, or are just given over to the next cool thing. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, but I guess if we're driving at a point here, Rob, I think the conclusion we're both coming to is that if possible, and it's actually maybe not the biggest deal in the world, try to end a campaign before one of those things happens.
Yes. And so I have managed to do this a couple of times, and I was proud of myself for getting ahead of the inevitable disintegration. And in every case, it was not the most graceful ending. And I want to talk about this because there are some specific questions that the listener asked about this. But I was glad that I ended it on my terms, on our terms, rather than letting it fall apart. And so this episode is about how to deliberately, intentionally end campaigns. And
how to kill your campaign on your own terms.
That's right. That's right. It's how to take how do you take your campaign out to the woodshed and give it a death with dignity.
Yeah. give it a scratch, say it's a good boy.
And
with a tear in your eye, say
that's
goodbye.
Right. Put it down. But this is the truth. And so before we get into like nuts and bolts to brass tacks, I do want to say that this is hard, that it is difficult to gracefully end campaigns in the real world as adults, because chances are good you're not going to have the opportunity to do things exactly the way that you want. You're probably not going to reach your exact desired conclusion, and you probably won't reach the one that your players want either. So the first thing that you need to do is temper your expectations and understand that you're trying to do your best.
Thanks for listening to the preview of our premium episode for February 2020. If you want to support the podcast and unlock the full episode with plenty of examples from Rob and my own experience running campaigns and ending them, both successfully and unsuccessfully, you can by joining us on Patreon for $5 a month. It gets you a premium episode every month, plus a ton of other cool stuff, adventures that we've written, full classes that we've designed, monsters and NPCs that you can plop down in your campaign. If you can support the podcast, we'd appreciate it. And you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes or going to patreon.com/dungeonmasterofnone. Thanks again, and keep rolling them dice.